Apparently, a Colorado graphic designer says that she has the First Amendment to refuse to create websites for same-sex weddings, despite the fact that the state has an anti-discrimination law. And apparently this lady considers herself to be God's masterpiece. Her words, not mine. Now, I would like to point out the ridiculousness of this whole situation, and I want to completely show you how easy it is to dismantle the liberal worldview, right? So, the progressive worldview, and I can do it with a single question. Let's assume that I go to a Muslim bakery and I demand that they make a cake where they say that Jesus is the Son of God. And the Muslim person says that, well, I can't write that because that would be blasphemous. Because I'm a Muslim and I do not believe that Jesus is the Son of God, so therefore I refuse to bake the cake. Who is discriminating whom in this particular situation? Because if the Muslim doesn't want to bake the cake, then he's discriminating against me because I'm a Christian. And if I force him to bake the cake, then I discriminate towards him because he's a Muslim. Were the American legislator who came up with this law really that stupid and didn't thought about this situation? The answer is no. They were actually very intelligent and they did think about it. The way it works is that if you open a store, the things you put on display, the things that are already made, you have to sell them without discriminating. But if someone comes and asks you to create something, to do something, then you can discriminate. Because otherwise, it would mean that your freedom of creativity is being infringed. Like, other people could force you to create stuff you don't like. And in this particular case, it's literally what it's about. She is a web designer. She makes websites. Now, she said that she has absolutely nothing against making websites for gay people. Like, that's not what the controversy is about. The controversy is that, let's say, some gay people come and ask her to introduce slogans or quotes that go against her belief. Then she doesn't want to do it. So if just a gay couple wants to create a website, like, that's fine. You know, like, she's not against it. But she just doesn't want to say things that she disagrees with. I mean, it's the same thing like the bakery asking them to bake you a Jesus Christ with a dildo on their forehead. Right? Like, no one would want that. Secondly, I don't even understand why religion is considered a protective group. I mean, if religion is considered a protective group, ideology should be considered a protected group. Because this is what it's about. Like, what is religion at the end of the day? It's a series of moral values and ideas based on how society should be run. And I want to point out that liberals themselves do not want to live in a world with this ridiculous standard. It's because they probably only think that, okay, well, we can just be bigoted towards the Christians and we don't care about them, so that's fine. They don't understand that this can be used against them. I mean, let me give you an example. Let's say you go to a liberal in San Francisco. He happens to be an LGBTQ plus ally, and you're a Christian, and you're asking him, I want you to make me a website that says women can't have penises, and you have like a lot of other right-wing slogans over there, right? Now, the liberal can say, well, hold on a little bit. This goes against my values. This is not what I believe in. This would harm the transgender community. This would erase trans people if I write that. I refuse to write it. And you're like, oh, so you're discriminating me because I'm a Christian. And then the liberal would say, well, I don't believe in God. And you're like, oh my God, you're erasing Christianity. You're invalidating my lived experiences as a Christian. You're saying that I believe in a superstition, that the way I conduct my life, like by fasting and by praying and by abstinence, like all of this, you're saying that is just a figment of my imagination. You're calling me a crazy person. You're discriminating against me. So, if this law was to be applied equally, right, then you could have a Christian going up to a liberal demanding that they create something that the liberal disagrees with. And at the end of the day, I genuinely don't even understand why you would want to do that. Like, why would you want to go to a person and force them to do something that they don't like? Why? I mean, there's other people that can do it, you know, especially when we're not talking about a monopoly. Like, if we were talking about Apple or Google deplatforming gay activists, I would understand, you know, because it's like, okay, well, yes, private company can do whatever it wants, but in reality, it's a duopoly. You don't really have other places to go. This is not cool, you know, like legally they can do it, but culturally, morally, right? Like, you can have that argument. But when it comes to this, it's like, surely there are, like, you're in Colorado, surely there are other web designers, right? Like, surely there are other bakers. And not to mention, like, this is going to hurt her business, potentially. Like, if you're going to discriminate like that in 2022, there's a lot of other people who don't even happen to be gay that are not going to go to your venue anymore because they know which type of person you are. So I don't see the problem. Again, like, I just do not see the legal issues with her, especially when she's saying, no, like, I'm not going to discriminate against the LGBTQ community, but I don't want to write something with my own hands that I don't agree with, that goes against my values. And I can guarantee to you, every liberal would not like it if they were forced to write something that would go against their values. And again, it's also the quality of the work. Like, going to a person that actually likes what they're doing and believes what they're doing are going to make a better product than a person that is compelled and forced to do something they disagree with. Which leads me to assume that, yet again, activists have been responsible for this conundrum. Like, there were people that actively went from bakery to bakery to bakery until they found one that refused them, and that's the one that they decided to sue in order, I guess, to raise their publicity, to raise their status, to appear in the newspaper, make some money. Now, this is going to the Supreme Court, and the New York Times is worried that the Supreme Court is now leaning to the right. And it's like, okay, well, aren't you for democracy? I mean, the Supreme Court just looks at the Constitution because they're worried about Roe v. Wade. And I haven't seen the New York Times explain to me where the Founding Fathers talked about abortion. They didn't. So what happens if it's not in the Constitution? Then democracy takes over and the states decide. So they actually put it to a vote at the state level. This should be a similar thing. It should be up to the state level if you want to force people to write things they disagree with and goes against their values. But if you do that, it's going to be applied equally, and eventually you're going to have some Christian activists that are going to purposefully go in liberal places and demand things that liberals won't want to do. And the moment they decide that they don't want to do it, they're going to have a lawsuit on their hand. And I don't think that would make anyone happy. And finally, I need to remind myself that I have a channel and I must shill. There's two alternative channels that you can find me on. There is the live stream channel, where I live stream every day for 1 hour. And then there is the lack of entertainment channel, where I do VTubing. And I talk about comic books. Today I will talk about Amurang. Very interesting video. So you will find the link to those channels into the pinned comment. Do consider subscribing. I'll see you guys there.